Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Ground and Pound podcast, the show where, as always, we're hitting you with them elbows of knowledge. And no UFC this week, but that's no problem because the Ground and Pound podcast has got you covered with PFL Europe. This time it's in Brussels, Belgium. And for those of you that don't know, that's the home of Dr. Evil. And one man that is known for his evil lair is my co-host, Carlos. What's happening, Carlos?
Absolutely nothing, brother.
He's probably recording this podcast from his evil lair, but that's not to worry, as we're going to break down this whole entire PFL Europe card, starting off in the early prelims, heading to the main event, and kicking things off. We have 16 fights to break down. In the early prelims, we have Bryce Belghazi taking on Salvo Giudice. And I'm going to pass this one to you, Carlos. Who you got in this prelim banger?
I ended up going with Salvo Giudice. I'm not sure if it's Giudice or Giudice, but I'm going with that. I'm going with Giudice. He looks, like he can fight anywhere the fight goes. Probably just a little raw. Needs to tighten up a few things. For a 1-0 fighter, you could see that. You know what I mean? Like that comes out. Even though he's had a number of amateur fights, it just looks like. There's a lot of things like he needs to tighten up a lot of his striking. He's a little off balance when he's throwing kicks and punches at times. And even on the ground, like he doesn't know where to set his weight because he's like probably just caught up in the moment and being in front of the crowd. But he is doing good for himself. And Belghazi, he looks like another guy who's 1-1. He just looks very raw, like all he can do is bull forward and hope to take you down. And even if he gets this fight to the ground, I think Giudice could actually defensively defend himself on the ground and get back to his feet. I think he does have an edge in the stand-up, but I do think the experience would get to him because I think Belghazi would just be a little over aggressive on the feet. Maybe that might be a little too much for him at this point, but I'm going with Giudice because I think he's going to be a little bit more relaxed. I think he's got a little bit more experience in the cage, and I think he can pull it out.
A little bit of dissension to kick things off here in this 1-1 versus 1-0 fight right here. I'm going to go with Belghazi. Belghazi trains at Bulgarian top team. For those of you that don't know, Umar C trains at the UFC French product, trains at Bulgarian top team. So a guy that he's regularly training with, obviously up in weight, but a good sparring partner nonetheless. To me, Belghazi has pretty decent BJJ off of his back. I saw him have a nice triangle early finish in one of his early fights inside of MMA. He can be taken down and controlled very easily, as he saw in his last PFL fight. And he does like knees, and he loves to get into the clinch. He loves knees, elbows in the clinch. And I just worry a little bit about the takedown defense, but I do think that overall here, he's definitely got more finishing upside, especially off of his back or in the clinch. And to me, when I watched Salvo, I wasn't really overly impressed. He seems very, very aggressive to come out early, but he tends to slow down because of how early he comes out aggressive. And to me, like Carlos pretty much hinted at, both of these guys have a lot of flaws, and they look like guys that haven't had a lot of experience. And to me, with Salvo, him coming out very aggressive early, as long as Belghazi weathers that early storm, I think he'll have a little bit more in the gas tank. I think he'll be a little bit more measured. I just think the brawling style here of Salvo is going to be first round knockout or bust, and he'll just get either taken down and controlled or be overzealous and jump into Belghazi's guard. But I just like the kind of the experience that he gains from being at the Bulgarian top team here, training with some of the guys like C. I think that his experience training with those guys will shine through here against a 1-0 Salvo. So a little bit of dissension here, going with Belghazi to get it done. I'm going to say he might even get a submission.
Let's go, Giudice.
And next up, we have Jessica Cunha taking on Pauline Wisniewski. Whenever I read this name, Wisniewski, it always makes me think of Mike Wazowski off of Monsters, Inc. Did you file your paperwork, Mr. Wazowski? Anyway, Carlos, who you got in this one?
It's exactly what I thought of too, man. I'm going with Paulina. She on the feet, she looks pretty good. Like she looks pretty sharp in her movements. Um, the end of her punches and kicks, it actually looks pretty punishing. Or just get her opponents backing up. Takedown defense in what I've seen so far looks pretty good. I'm not sure the wrestling credentials of the people that she's fought, but as of now, she seems to be able to get back to her feet, and she seems to be able to stuff some takedowns here and there. Do like the aggression. I like the fact that she's picking her spots. She has some very beautiful punch in a straight line, in and out. I love it. She's pulling the string all the time. And Cunha, this will be another test of keeping yourself off the ground, takedown defense for Paulina. I think Cunha is gonna try to stand with her, and she's a little. I don't know how to say it, but it's like she's a little sluggish on the feet. She's kind of slow. I could just see like Paulina's just a little bit more dynamic in her movements. At some point, Cunha is going to go for a takedown. I just don't think she's going to be able to take it, and I think she's going to be eating some elbows and some knees. But yep, I'm taking Paulina Wisniewska in this one.
One thing could be rest assured with Carlos here that I'm also going to go with Pauline, but Carlos does a fantastic job of, setting up the ladies nicely, giving them credit, whereas I just come along and say that, Jessica Cunha sucks. Simple as that. She just sucks. It's just that simple. Paulina, I got to say, she was a little bit of a bright spark this week doing tape studies. She was definitely somebody that stood out. Carlos and I talked about that before we went live. Extensive amateur background for Pauline. She's got 25 amateur fights, which I really liked. Obviously 5-0 now as a pro, so that's 30 MMA fights, and it does show in there. She looks like somebody that's a little bit more polished compared to some of these guys that you'll see on this PFL Europe card. She does have a fast high kick and a very nice fast 1-2. She does try to mix in wrestling from time to time, but what tends to happen in a lot of those fights, she ends up just in the clinch up against the fence. She's fairly big for 125, so she does tend to hold women up against the fence. She likes to make things dirty, uppercuts, knees in the clinch there, just to kind of mix things up. She's not necessarily the most successful wrestler, but she can use that to her advantage, holding women up against the fence and just kind of beating on them and leaning on her. And obviously in this matchup, she's got the height and reach advantage plus the experience advantage. And I mean, Jessica, to me, she's just very plodding on the feet. She does have a nice teep kick to the body, which I do like, a weapon that I think is very underused inside of MMA as a whole. But I just think all of her wins come against very low-level competition. She's not necessarily very athletic. I think Pauline is much faster, much more athletic. And I think this should be one-way traffic. I'm very confident in Pauline Wisniewska to get it done this week. I think Carlos is as well, and she's definitely a bright spark, one to watch out for in PFL Europe for sure. And next up, we have Dean Garnett, the Scouser, taking on Thomas Gronvall. I'll pass this one to you, Carlos. Who you got in this one?
Well, just based on his fight with McGrillen, I'm going to have to go with Garnett because he showed a lot of toughness in that fight and a lot of resilience not getting finished, and he ate some shots. Does get into some wild exchanges at times, but against somebody like Gronvall, I'm not saying that he's not good, but he doesn't do anything that stands out or particularly that's going to overwhelm you. He looks like the type of guy that'll probably just fight for position, not to finish, hope to go the distance, not get hurt, doesn't take any chances, but, maybe look for a submission here and there if it goes to the ground. But other than that, I think Garnett will be just fine. Garnett also poses a submission threat too. He will take you down. He will look for submissions, look for a little ground and pound to soften you up. But overall, I just think if he can keep this on his feet, he's going to be able to work his magic on Gronvall. He doesn't seem to have any bit of aggression. He looks like he wants to be more technical than tenacious on the feet. Sometimes it's great to be technical. Sometimes it's good to just get out there and go after it. And I think Garnett's going to go after it.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Definitely a pick here for Garnett for me. He is 36 years old, so I do try to stay away from some of the older guys, especially guys that have taken a lot of damage. And one thing could be rest assured, if you didn't see that McGrillen Dean Garnett fight, check that one out. Garnett got dropped many times. He dropped McGrillen many times. So I am a little bit worried that, he has taken damage, and at 36 years old, his chin could fall off a cliff at any moment. But I just don't think that Tomas really has that sting in his shots to be able to get Dean out of there. Dean does train part-time over at Next Gen MMA with Paddy the Baddy Pimlet lad. Obviously training with some very good high-level guys there. It is only part-time, so maybe he's not necessarily over there full, getting that much rounds in with the Paddy the Baddy, but we'll see. Obviously, he does have a nice overhand right. He does have nice hooks. He does a fantastic job of setting them up as well. He does tend to look to counter, which I think is going to be tough to do here against Tomas, because Tomas isn't very aggressive. He tends to look to counter. Orthodox stance, and really sets up the right hand very well. And at times he can jump for guillotines, which I think would be a mistake here with Tomas. I think the ground game is where Tomas likes to sort of get things. He will roll for leg locks and things like that. I've not seen him necessarily jump guard. I'm not going to call him a jiu-jitsu nerd or a butt scooter, but he does tend to look to try to get fights to the ground. Tomas is very, very durable. Only been finished one time out of his 8 losses. Mostly goes to a decision. He does have very, very good left body kick, which I noticed as well. So Dean just has to kind of mind his P's and Q's with the kicks here. I think if he keeps this one on the feet, keeps this one in boxing range, presses forward, he'll win the decision here with his striking. I think Carlos is right with the right hands, the hooks that he has. I think that this will be one-way traffic if Dean keeps this one on the feet. If he does pull guillotine, I think it could be kind of anybody's guess, but I think Dean does enough with the striking. And next up, we have Mutsav Ibragimov taking on Geraldo Fanny. And I'm going to pass this one to you, Carlos. Who you got in this
one? 6-0. Ibragimov, or Ibragimov, however you say it, has good striking, keeps his opponent on his back foot. As of now, we haven't seen him tested yet. At least I haven't seen him tested yet. So he's always got his opponent going backwards. Very accurate. Doesn't throw if there's no opening. Doesn't really do anything to create openings. He just actually throws a shot out there. Usually the opening's there. It's still a lower level of guy that he's fighting. So at times we'll see how he's going to get better with that. If you ask me, he's very defensively sound as well. He moves his feet instead of just keeping a high guard. I like that. Why take damage if you don't have to? And, Fanny looks like he could be pretty decent on the feet. The problem is he's got to tighten up a little bit of his striking. His kicks are a little wide. His punching is definitely very wide. Someone like Ibragimov, he'll be able to see it coming. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I have I'm trying to read that too. So yeah, Ibragimov. I know it's not the most difficult name in the world, but so it also looks like he really needs to work, talking about Fanny, he needs to work on his submission defense, because it looks like in some of his prior fights, his athleticism, and maybe he's just really strong, and that's been able to keep him from going to the ground. But against somebody like Movzar, he's probably going to end up on the ground if he doesn't just get beat up on the feet. And when he goes down, he's definitely got to do something to stop he's got to do something to work on his submission defense, because in all of his losses, he's been subbed. So, Ibragimov all the way.
Yeah, I share the same sentiments you do here for Ibragimov. I think Ibragimov is one-way traffic. Wherever he wants to get this one done, he can. Just to talk a little bit about Fanny, I just don't see it, man. I mean, this guy, to be honest with you, he looks like he really struggles to set up his striking. He kind of throws like one shot at a time. And to me, his wins are over pretty low-level competition, so don't let the 14-5, versus 6-0 here fool you. The experience isn't against guys who are, necessarily all that to really gain a whole lot of experience here for Fanny. And to be honest with you, like Carlos said, I think if this fight does go to the ground, Fanny's submission defense is awful. And I said to Carlos before we got on, I kind of compare Fanny to a wish or a poor man's version of Cameron Smotherman. And even then, I think that's kind of being a little bit generous, if I'm being honest. But Ibragimov, he impressed me when I watched him on tape. One of the really highlighted moments was I watched one fight with him where he blasts this guy's calf kick early in the fight, and he goes calf kick, calf kick, calf kick, and the guy's not checking the kick, and then he kind of sets up a head kick primarily off of the calf kicks, knocks this guy straight out with the head kick in the first round. And it was just the way he set it up with his kicks was fantastic. I think that Fanny, realistically, his calf's going to get chewed up here. Ibragimov loves to throw the calf kicks. And I think as well, if Ibragimov does get tagged, which I saw in one of his fights, he could mix in the wrestling. I know that name sounds kind of Russian. I'm not too sure because he's from Belgium. I'm not sure of his background. I couldn't see anything, whether about he was Dagestani, Russian, or whatever. But he could definitely fall back on that wrestling. He wrestles very, very well. But I think wherever this fight goes, I think Ibragimov is going to be able to do whatever he wants. It might see a head kick. We might see a straight right. We might see a submission here, wrestle, heavy game plan. Either way, I think it's one-way traffic, as I like to say. And next up, we have Hamzat Here we go with the names. Abaev taking on Cunha Pedro. And I'm going to pass this one to you, Carlos. Who you got in this one?
That was good, brother. I like it.
Say it fast. No one will notice.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go at Abaev, and I'm going to go with Abaev. I think that's how you say that. All right, and I'm going to go with him because, you know, he throws some heat. He throws with every ounce of force in his body. Swing. It looks wild because it is wild. Has some strong grappling. Do not know if his wrestling is actually that good because most of the time he's just bullying his opponents over. Hasn't really met that big resistance yet. But as of now, strong grappling. At times can be light on his feet until it gets to like round 2 and he's a little gassed from throwing heat on everything and going 100 miles an hour. Then we'll start to see him get a little flat-footed at that point. Throws powerful shots. He'll push the pace, and he will wing punches late in the fight, even if he's dead tired. And if he catches you and he clubs you with it, I've seen him finish some guys. And yeah, so that's something for Pedro to have to worry about. And I don't know about you, but I didn't really see anything that stood out too much from Noso Pedro here. Like nothing really dangerous. I wish I could say his striking was good, but he's a little reluctant to throw. Some knees here, a couple of punches there, but not active enough in his fights. And yeah, I'm going to go with you with the one-way traffic. I just see Abaev taking this.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. I think Hamzat Abaev, a.k.a. Boars, which made Carlos and I chuckle when we saw that his nickname was Boars. But just be yourself, man. Just be yourself. Yeah, the guy's very explosive. I will say that. I did watch a couple of his fights. He knocked out one guy early in the first round, did a backflip off the cage, was pretty impressed, didn't expect that. Physical specimen, very physically gifted, obviously very explosive. Like I said, seems to hit very, very hard. I do think that he's run through a lot of his opponents early, so it'll be interesting to see later on in fights how he does progress if he doesn't kill everybody in the first round, as the real Hamzat would say. But there's not really necessarily a whole lot of technique to his strikes. I think it's just his explosiveness and his early, aggression that gets people out of there. And it'll be interesting to see what he looks like after the first round. And I'm right there with Carlos, with Pedro. He's a wild man. Like I've seen him come out. He'll throw a flying knee that's nowhere near landing, but he'll throw it anyway. He will mix in the wrestling, but doesn't necessarily get the takedowns. He'll clinch up against the fence and throw a lot of knees. And he kind of fights like those, like those boring Kamaru Usman fights where he'll just hold the guy up against the fence and just knee and, knee to the, foot stomp and knee to the buttocks and stuff like that. But he does tend to leave a lot of openings, which I think is why they've set this matchup up for Hamzat. I think that it's going to be Hamzat probably finishing Pedro in the early rounds. Both these guys will just meet in the middle and throw down. The only way I see Pedro winning is just throwing and landing a big shot that catches Hamzat early, but ultimately I think Hamzat is the better athlete here. He does have a little bit more setup to his shots, and I think he's definitely more explosive. So 2 for Hamzat here to get it done. And next up we have, this one's gonna butcher, but Adam Muskine. I'm gonna go with Muskine, taking on Tiziano Ferranti. Yeah, we're gonna go with Ferranti. Carlos, who you got in this one?
I ended up going with Meskini. I think that's it. But the edge and striking, I think, goes with Ferranti.
Ferranti.
Okay.
Yeah. Ferranti.
Dude, I don't know what just happened to me there, but yeah, he looks quicker on the feet, throws feints, tries to get his guy off guard there. Doesn't I don't know. Excuse me, I'm trying to for Avanti. I don't know why I got to think about it so hard. Sorry. Um, doesn't give his opponents enough space to work. From what I've seen so far, he likes to work right in that boxing range, right in your face. Meskini can strike a bit, but he likes to clinch range, and he'll take you down and against the cage, and he'll try to control you, to control his opponents. And Meskini's wrestling is not the most impressive. Fioravanti's submissions are decent, probably about a blue belt level, I would say. Like, there's no technique in getting it. He just jumps into it. Um, hasn't learned to sit and actually control his opponent and put his weight down, because a lot of times when he has guys down in that, in his guard, in their guard, they find a way to get back up. So all little things they got to learn to take care of. But for that night, I'm going to take Meskini.
A little bit of dissension finally. I'm going to go with the Italian. I'm going to go with Ferranti. That was a terrible impression, but I don't really care. One of the things I really like what you said is he has heavy forward pressure for Ferranti, and that's what I think is going to get it done here. He does definitely like to be the aggressor in fights. And I think, to me, when I talk about Meskini, I think that's how you're pronouncing it, sounds like a terrible Italian pasta. But to me, Ferranti, he's been taken down and beaten up in fights before, which is exactly how I've seen Ferranti get his job done in previous fights. He will literally come forward, heavy boxing pressure, throw a couple of shots, and then shoot in for a takedown when his opponents kind of protect themselves, gets that takedown and just beats people up with ground and pound. He loves to throw ground and pound, which we love here on the Ground and Pound podcast. He pretty much is just a very aggressive fighter, but he's a little bit more fundamentally safe. He's not necessarily taking a whole lot of damage. He just likes to pressure people forward. And to me, Meskini, he's more of a volume guy. He is very technical. He does like to keep things on the feet, but he has, like I said, been taken down in the past and beaten up, which is definitely what I think Ferranti's going to do here. And I just think he doesn't have the pop really to be able to keep, Ferranti off of him and get his respect. So I just think that forward pressure, mixing in the takedowns and just having the heavier hands here for Ferranti is what's going to be the path to victory here for him to get it done. I do think that Adam is a pretty decent fighter. I just think this is going to come down to one guy being able to pressure and mix in takedowns and be the harder hitter, and just not have that respect to get him off. And next up, we have Fadi Khaled taking on Levi Batchelor. I believe that's how it's pronounced. And I want to kick this one off here because this one's kind of interesting to me when I was doing a little bit of research here on Khaled. Khaled is basically a Muay Thai guy that's 2-0 inside of MMA. He's fought over in one championship, fought in Muay Thai, fought in karate, and kickboxing, things like that. So not necessarily a very high level or a high level of experience inside of MMA. And I think that's going to be very telling here against Batchelor. Batchelor is a guy who trains over with, what's his name? Oban Elliott and Jack Shaw. And the guy is, I don't want to say overhyped, but I've seen videos of them talking about him being the number one, 155er in the whole of the UK. I think that's just hype, but he does come out, he does get good takedowns, and he passes guard very, very well. He is finishing people, especially on the amateur side. He's come out and got right into mount. He's submitted very, very decent level opponents, especially on the regional scene of the amateur scene. And I think that's exactly what happens here. I think we've got a guy in Khaled who's obviously credentialed in the kickboxing and Muay Thai style. I think Levy comes in here and gets the takedown early, exploits that lack of wrestling, exploits that lack of experience in the grappling here of Khaled. And don't get me wrong, if Levy keeps this one on the feet, I think it would be an absolute disaster for him. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets knocked out. Khaled has a fantastic front kick. He has nice kicks to the calf as well, but I think this is going to be one-way traffic. I think Levy comes in, gets the takedown early. He does have good entries. He does have good takedowns, and he finds a submission. Carlos, who you got in this one?
I am going with Fadi Khaled on this one. So we are going to have a little dissension again. Okay, which is okay. The reason I'm going to take him is number one, Levi, I did see him fight. He had a quick finish. I think it was a submission victory, but still not a lot of footage. Was able to control the guy pretty easy. Um, Khaled just showed a lot of grit, a lot of toughness against Rotang. He's taken a lot of punishment. He also gave out a little bit of punishment himself, tagging him a few times. Um, what I kind of noticed is, in I think it was one of the fights. Now I don't know the level of grappling his opponent had, but he was able to hold him down on the ground pretty good, and was able to control his hips. And even though you haven't been grappling for a long time, sometimes maybe it just comes to you, sometimes it doesn't. But just to be able to show that against a guy who actually had some fights in MMA and was, you know, on the ground, you assume he trains on the ground too, that he's going to be able to control him, and he got the submission. I just thought, you know what? I think he's going to be just fine when it gets to the ground. Probably not the level of Batchelor, as I would say, or Batchelor, however you say it, but not the level of him. But I think he's going to be okay, and I think he's going to give him some punishment before he gets to the ground that might slow down Batchelor there. So I'm going with Khalid. I think he can. I think he can put a hurting on him.
Yeah, that name Levi Batchelor is Welsh, so who knows how that one's pronounced. But one thing's for sure
Exactly.
is
Yeah.
Khalid. You could also argue, goes along with Khaled. But anyway, let's get on to another one. And another fight that we have is another name that's difficult to pronounce here. We
I
have
saw what you did there.
like, I know, this is the type of entertainment you guys love here on the Ground and
I
Pound podcast.
saw it.
Drop us a like and subscribe if you're enjoying the content. But we have Salvatore Liga taking on Gaetano Pirrello, and I'm going to pass this one to you, Carlos. This one's an interesting one. I want to see who you have in this one.
Okay, I ended up going with Pirrello. I think he's got a little. I think that's what I'm going with. Yeah, yes, I'm going with Pirrello. Okay, Pirrello. Too much inactivity for Liga. That's how I looked at it. But it also could be he just needed time and needed to reset himself, because sometimes you come back a little stronger. I mean, he's only 31, and he had a pretty decent sized layoff in between where he was active. But who knows what the reason is? I couldn't look into it, but just to think, Pirrella is more, I think, well-rounded. You know what I mean? But I do think that Liga poses that threat of at least throwing on submissions out of nowhere, because I have seen him just jump into submissions in some of his fights. Um, I know the inactivity might be a problem, but I do see that if Pirrello can keep this on the feet, he might have a pretty good chance. And I don't know if Liga's wrestling is credentialed. I just know that sometimes people know the basics of a submission, and they know if I jump into this and I grab that, I'm going to get you to tap. And right now, they're not at the highest level. This is probably a step up for Liga right now, but I think that Pirrello can get this done. Plus, I think he's, from what I saw, I think he was in the UFC as well and fought some better competition. So I just think that he's going to be able to put it on him, even though actually he's not. He's 33 years old. He's not that old. He's just, he's in that age where he's in his prime or just getting out of the prime. So he should be just fine. I'm going with Pirrello. You got a problem with that, bro?
No, my brother, I'm going with Pirrello as well. But you gave me a nice little segue
I
there.
just saw that face.
No, it was a nice little segue. I was just thinking how I could segue it, but you did it for me. He did fight in the UFC. He's 0-2 in the UFC. He lost to Ricky Simone by arm triangle in the second round, and he was knocked out in the first round by Douglas Silva de Andrade. So two pretty good guys, to be fair. I mean, both of those, they're not terrible losses. And I actually wrote in my notes here as well that I think if Pirrello can keep this one on the feet, I think he could do a lot of damage to Liga. I definitely, which I agree with you there. So to me, Liga is, Pirrello is a little bit of a brawler, which it also explains his record of 16-7. Sometimes he comes in a little bit too overzealous, a little bit too overly aggressive. I think he gets caught at times. He does like knees and elbows in the clinch, especially if he smells blood. He'll just spam elbows, even if you've got your hands covered up. And I just think that kind of explains a lot about how he is as a fighter, is that he tries to come in and just take people out. Sometimes it works for him and sometimes it doesn't. And that's why he has 7 losses, but also has 16 wins. But I think the experience here is going to be a factor here against a guy like Liga. Liga, to me, is pretty much just a grappler with bad entries on his takedowns. And I just think here, if this one stays on the feet, it's going to be night and day here for Pirrello. I think he's the much more aggressive striker. I think he's the better striker. I think that even though he isn't necessarily a good striker, he's a lot better than Liga, especially when it comes to the power. And I just think here that Liga's, I don't want to say he's a jiu-jitsu nerd, because he's really not. He just, nothing really stands out. Like, his striking doesn't look like he really can hurt people. He looks very, very stiff and out of place on the feet. And I just think he's just going to get overwhelmed here by Pirrello. I think even though the UFC didn't treat him too kindly, they're not bad losses. And I think his experience will shine through here. And next up, we have Nicholas DeFranco taking on Catlin Safti. And I'm going to pass this one to you, Carlos. Who you got in this one?
It was a little rough because I like the aggression of Safta. You know, I like how he goes after it. He's ready to be in your face. He's ready to throw strikes. And he's actually chasing you and running you down in certain points of the fight, his opponents. And Nicholas DeFranco, he's very passive. He's going to sit back, create a little space. He's going to throw a jab out there. He's going to throw a low leg kick, and he's just going to be in space and throw some strikes out there. If there's any action in the fight, it's because the other opponent is creating the action and he has to react to it. And sometimes he reacts in the right way and he gets the win. But I just feel like in this case, he's just sometimes a little aggressive where he puts himself in a bad spot. And because DeFranco's so reserved, I just think that maybe Safta's going to fall into, not a trap, but he's just going to fall into a situation where DeFranco gets the best of him, whether it be a submission or even running into a overhand right or something, or a knee. And DeFranco's not that kind of striker, so it's going to take Safta running into that strike to put himself out. The pace that Safta's going to push, I think that most likely, if it goes to decision, he might get it. But ultimately, I think I'm going to go with DeFranco because even though I find it to be hesitant, maybe a little reserved, I think that's going to help him get through the fight and get better positions.
This is probably my least confident fight on this 16-fight PFL Europe card. And if you're enjoying the content here, hit that like and subscribe button. And I'm going to go with Safta. There's a few things here that kind of make me stand out and want to pick him here. Safta, to me, the square stance, I'm not necessarily a big fan of. He tends to be very square to his opponent. Carlos and I were talking about it before we got on. It does give people good lateral movement, but to me, he just doesn't have that lateral movement. So he has the defensive abilities of like Rocky Balboa. And to me, he'll blast kicks. He's, very sort of slow in fights. He kind of takes a lot of damage, and he will blitz you with combinations, but he does leave his chin very high up in the air. And I just said all that and said that I'm picking him. But I just think, to me, he's going to be the aggressor in this fight. And when you look at DeFranco, when you look at his 10-4 record, a lot of the people that he's beating are very, very low-level guys. And when he is losing, he's losing to guys that are kind of, in the ballpark of where Saftik's skill set is. Saftik's losses have all been against fairly decent level competition inside the PFL as well. So I look at that 6-3 record and think, it's not necessarily your average 6-3 bum. I think both guys, if this was the UFC, both guys would be cut. I'd be saying how this fight sucks. But I think Saftik is just going to be the aggressor in this matchup. I think DeFranco's going to struggle with that forward pressure and the kicks of Safta. But honestly, like I said, not confident in either guy. DeFranco's level of competition has me worried here. I don't even think that he's fought a guy as good as Safta, but I'm going with Safta just based off of the aggression and lack of competition DeFranco's had. And next up, we have Matthias Duragrin? Duragrin? I'm going to go with that one, Duragrin. Taking on Ibragimov. I'm going to start that one again. These names, man, I tell you, they get me every time. Ibragimov Ibragimov, and I'm going to kick things off with this one. Even though I can't pronounce his name, I've been very high on Igrimov, or you know which guy I'm talking about. The Dagestani guy out of the UK, Manchester top team. I can't pronounce his name, but I'm very high on his skill set. And the guy is pretty much a Dagestani wrestler. The guy is only 21 years of age. He comes out and just grinding wrestling style. He will go for submissions, heavy top pressure. Once he gets you down with his good entries on his wrestling, he does keep you there. And what I like about him as well is he's not necessarily a lay and pray guy. He will try to submit you. And to me, when you look at him, when he's undefeated amateur and pro, he's stuck to that game plan throughout. He's constantly worked on his striking. His kickboxing is fairly fundamental. And the thing here with Matthias is he's also a wrestler, but he doesn't go for submissions. He's more of a lay and pray guy. Every fight of his I watch, the referee's constantly warning him, like, let's advance position, let's do damage. And to me, I just don't see how he's going to really get anything going in this fight. He's going to be the worst wrestler out of the two. Ibragim is basically just going to be able to get this fight to the ground whenever he wants. If it plays out on the feet, he's probably the better striker. And also, I think he's got the submission threats here. So give me the undefeated Dagestani fighting out of Manchester top team here to get it done. Very high on him. I've always been. Carlos, who you got in this one?
Of course, I went with Ibragimov. Good striking, great wrestling. Like you had stated, Duragrin's got some... he's got some decent striking, and he's got some high-level grappling himself. I don't know about high level, but he's got some good grappling himself. And I think it's just going to be hard for me to see a fight where Ibragimov is not dominating from start to finish. The kid is very talented. He's got so much upside. He's going to be one of the big names, I believe, for the PFL if he chooses to stay. But I don't know. He's been very impressive since I've seen him. So, yeah, Ibragimov all the way.
Yeah, and then Carlos just comes in and just says, yeah, Ibragimov, it wasn't that hard. But, yeah, just show me up, buddy. It's okay. And next up, we have... No, I butchered that one. But next up, we have Bruno Santos taking on. Here's another one. Boris Barga Atangana. I'm pretty sure it might be Umbarga, but Antanaga. I've been impressed with this Boris guy. I watched tape on him this week, and he was definitely a bright spark when you're watching tape study. The guy's fought 185. He's fought 205. He's even fought at heavyweight. And he looks always the smaller guy in there, but athletic kickboxer, very, very aggressive, will crash the pocket, has very nice 1-2s, nice flashy kicks, and like I said, he has always been undersized, but one of the things I did like about him was when he fought against some of the bigger heavyweights, he got rocked in one of the fights and he instantly went for a takedown. He instantly got well, not instantly, but he pretty much worked for the submission. He has a couple of rear naked chokes on his record. And I just like how his whole game's kind of put together. He shows a level of experience you don't see from a guy that's 5-0. He looks like a guy that should be maybe 10-1, 11-2, sort of. He looks like that kind of skill set that he can put things together, and if things aren't going his way, he has a backup plan, which I do really like here. This fight obviously taking place at 205, and Bruno Santos, just wanted to highlight something about the PFL that I think is kind of crazy. Is if you look on Tapology, you look on the PFL website, you have this guy, Bruno Santos, 3-3 as a fighter, fighting out of Portugal. Very hard to find tape on this guy. The guy pretty much sucks. All of his wins have been against, very, very low-level guys, 0-10, 2-13. But when you go on the PFL website, it comes up with a completely different Bruno Santos. PFL, get your shit together, man. But this, to me, is one-way traffic. I'm going with Boris. I think that this one's pretty much the showcase bout for the Belgium Brussels gentleman here. I think he can win this fight wherever this fight goes. If he wants to take it to the ground and submit him, he can. I think he'll probably knock him out in front of his hometown crowd here. But give me Boris here to get the knockout in front of his home people. Carlos, who you got in this one?
Just to let you know, while you're talking, I'm listening to you, but I'm also trying to pronounce these names too. So I got a little bit of a one-up on you, at least sometimes, I went with Atangana too. I thought that from what I've seen, you thought the same thing. He's going to overmatch. He's going to overwhelm him pretty much. I was very much taken by the fact that he was fighting a much bigger opponent. He did get rocked. Found another way to win. Resiliency in the sport is huge to have, and not only to have that, but to have different avenues to find a way to win. And that's what he's going to do, is trying to find the easiest path if he can. When it comes to Santos, I I know exactly the fighter that you're talking about. I thought, because I saw it too. I thought it was great. Two different people. Who knows who's going to show up? But I'm assuming it's this guy. I was able to find at least one video on him, and this could be, just to throw that out there. This could be like the Ali Walsh versus Gibbs. If Atangana starts to get gassed, Santos has just that little bit of skill, and he could turn on the pressure and he can get him down and lay some ground and pound, look for a submission or something. I'm trying to give him some upside. I don't see it. I think he's going to get rocked and dropped in the first round. But yeah, I'm going to Tangana. Sorry, Santos. I tried.
Who knows who's going to show up? It's going to be Bruno Santos, Dan Hardy coming out to some Mexican music. Who knows? And next up, we have Julian Pereira Lopez taking on Jan Cieplowski. I'm going to go with Cieplowski. Don't kill me, Polish fans. I know I can't pronounce that name. Carlos, who you got in this one?
In this one, I went with Jan. I'm not even going for it. If you can't get it, I'm not going for it. But I'm going with Jan. Lopez should pretty much, like, number one. I absolutely hate the nickname. We talked about it earlier, and I got to go over that. Boyka, come on, guy, pick a good movie. Pick a real hero from an action movie. Boyka, I'm gonna be nice. What a chump. So anyway, bad taste in movies leads to bad taste in fighting. I think he's gonna lose only because of that. No, I think he's gonna lose because there's a lot of upside to Jan. I think he's got good movement. He's got the sharper, shorter movement. Does a lot of in and out but he doesn't offer anything as he's moving in. Sometimes he doesn't throw that jab out there, or he doesn't throw that kick as he comes in, or he doesn't even fake like he's going for a takedown. So there's a lot of useless movement that he does. But when he does move, the movements are athletic. They're explosive. He does offer some ground game as well. He does get some takedowns off the cage as well. What I do think he's going to have is the pressure factor. Now, that also led to him running into a couple of shots. I saw him get rocked in a couple of fights. He's got to learn that, as I'm coming in, don't think that person backing up is not ready to throw. They're coiled. They're waiting for you. You could get tagged. Julian, I don't really see him posing too much of a threat. Yes, he does have some decent submissions. Yes, he can throw. I've seen him knock some dudes out, but the thing is Sam loves small. Anybody can get knocked out and dropped. I would hate to see Jan just coming in, ready to be offensive and get tagged. I don't see that happening, so I'm going with Jan Cieplowski.
Yeah, I'm going with Mike Wazowski as well. Yeah, give me Jan, man. I think he's very, very technical on the feet. I like the way this guy fights. He is very measured. He will mix in takedowns if just to keep his opponent guessing. Not necessarily the best wrestler, but he'll go for them at the end of rounds to clinch rounds. He'll mix it in when his opponent's kind of been eating calf kicks, and he just mixes everything in very well. He does have snappy calf kicks. Stays very measured on the feet, which I like, especially in this matchup. Lopez is powerful hands, powerful striking. I do think that, he has dropped multiple opponents in fights that I've seen. So I do think that he's, still live for a finish, no matter where the fight goes, especially if it's on the feet. I just think to me here that the composure here of Jan is going to be what it's going to be. Basically, wherever this fight goes, I think that the Jan's ability to stay focused and sort of stay in the moment is what's going to be the winning factor here. Lopez, to me, just gets a little bit too wild, especially when things aren't going his way. And I think he also lacks grappling. If Jan does want to take this one to the ground and try to find the submission, I think this is the opponent to do it. Lopez has had 3 of his 4 losses have all come via submission loss. 35 years old as well, looks to be slowing down in fights as well. Jan's not necessarily known for his pressure, so I don't necessarily think Lopez will get tired. But if Jan wants to put a pace on him and he wants to trust his cardio here, I think that's also a viable option. But give me Jan Wazowski to get it done. I know it's not Wazowski, people. Don't make me say the name again. But 2 for the Polish power here to get it done. And next up, we have I know Carlos is going to be giggling when I say this one, but we have Gustavo Oliveira taking on Anis Azizoun, not to be mistaken for
Yeah,
Anus. But Carlos, who you got in this one?
I'm taking anus. I think that I think that at 6 feet, 135, that's a very that's a very um, huge advantage he's got. He's very top of the weight class. He's got good striking, good takedown defense, fights long, and you know, but still advances and blitzes his opponents, which negates some of that. But he does do that when his opponents are compromised. Um, that is what allowed him to get caught actually by I think it was, I'm trying to remember the name of the opponent. I was gonna say, I think his name was Barris. I'm not sure. As he was coming in, and he's got all that length, he got caught. You know what I mean? So all I wanna say with that is, like, if you got someone hurt, you want to blitz them, you want to just make sure that you're coming in measured. You know what I mean? Like, don't just rush in face first. Come in off your jab. You know what I mean? Rip a leg kick, something, anything that they can like look out for, distract them as you're coming in to finish them. But that's something he's got to be worried about. He loves to blitz in a lot of his fights. Um, Gustavo, um, not the most technical. His thing is he's going to have to make this fight look ugly, uh, which kind of won't work in his favor because even if this fight gets ugly, Anus here is going to be ready to, throw. He's always ready to throw. He's always got his balance. He's ready to go. And he's going to get to him, based on the reach, he's going to get to him before Gustavo can get to him. So I don't know. I just think that he's going to come in. He's going to probably get popped or stopped. And I think it's going to go to Azizoun, however you say it.
Yeah, Gustavo Oliveira hasn't taken a MMA fight since July 15th, 2023. So 2-year layoff here for Oliveira for PFL or MMA in general. He's mostly been taking Muay Thai fights and karate. So I question how the grappling has been coming along, or whether he's been working on it. And his striking to me looks very telegraphed, and he looks very uncomfortable on the feet. You see 10-2 and you think, oh, it's one of the better records on this card. He doesn't look that impressive to me. And one thing I will say about Anus is Anus's striking is clean. His anus is very clean. No, he's just to be honest here, his striking is very, very clean. When I watched tape on this guy, one of the commentators said something that really stood out to me before I watched one of his fights is. Azizoun, he's a kickboxing world champion of 2018, the WKU champion. So obviously, world level kickboxing and striking here, ends combos with the low kick. And to me, he is very, very measured on the feet. And I think here that this is really just kind of a showcase bout here for him to just beat up Oliveira with his clean striking and just to get it done here with the kickboxing. He looked fairly impressive to me on tape. I thought that he looked pretty nice in the striking realm. Who knows how this fight's going to play out if it does hit the ground. I think both guys, that's not necessarily their skill set, but I trust Azizoun here to get it done. And I know that it's Anas. I know, people, for all of you haters and trolls in the comments, we're just having a little bit of a joke, a little jokey joke. Relax. And next up, we have Mateus Zaharovs. I'm not sure how that one's pronounced, but taking on Mayon Campanella, and I'm going to kick this one off here. To me, this is one-way traffic, as I always like to say. I think Campanella is going to win this one with his, sort of grappling specialty here. He's fairly impressive to me. He's very, very good at passing the guard. Not necessarily the best level of wrestling, what I would like to see for a guy that's mostly relying on his grappling. And to me, what he does a fantastic job of is once he gets the fight to the ground, he is very, very good with his top pressure. He will keep you there. He had an impressive arm triangle victory. I believe it was in his last fight that showed me that, he is levels on the ground. He knows where his bread is buttered. And what I do like as well is he's all the way in or all the way out. The guy will be all the way at kicking range, blasting kicks, which I really, really like. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the Paddy Pimblett performance against Bobby Green, where Paddy was kind of all the way in or all the way out. Spamming those kicks, whether it be calf kicks, body kicks, head kicks, just to get the opponent kind of frustrated. That's exactly to me what Campanella does. And I think he gets it done here. And Mateus trains at SBG Ireland. All of his wins come via finish, so I do question what he looks like later on in fights. His wins do tend to come over lower level opponents, so not necessarily that confident here against a guy like Campanella, 7-1 against some higher level guys in the PFL. He does have a nice single leg, but I think if he takes his fight to the ground, he's going to be out of his depth. I think Campanella drowns him and ultimately submits him here. I think that both guys are very willing to engage in the grappling. I think that's exactly what we have here. I don't think that this ends up being one of those fights where both guys are grapplers and we end up with a striking affair. I just think that Mateus here is going to think that he can grapple with a guy like Campanella and ultimately find out that he can't. Campanella by submission for me. Carlos, who you got in this one?
I went with Campanella. I was kind of impressed. Like his striking is smooth enough where he doesn't go crazy. He sticks to the basics, and the basics are enough, I think, to make Zaharovs. I think it's the basics are enough to get him to want to shoot, go for a takedown. And like you said, that's how I have it here. Is I feel like the fight's going to take place on the ground, and I feel like even though Zaharovs trying to get him to the ground, at some point, because I feel Campanella is going to stand, force him to make him take him down. I feel that Campanella is probably that's where he's going to shine, is on the ground, and I think that I think he's going to force Zaharovs to make that decision, stand up and fight and get beat up for a while, or try to take it to the ground. Let me finish it. It'll be merciful.
Oui for the Frenchman. And that brings us to the co-main event. And I said to Carlos before we broke this one down that before we went live, I think this is probably the best fight on the card. We have Taylor Lapilus, the UFC vet here, taking on Ali Taleb. And I'm going to pass this one to you, Carlos. Who you got in this one?
Lapilus has a wealth of experience. You know, that's not the only reason why I'm taking him. I think that he's a little bit more intelligent in how he strikes on his feet. He's got a long reach. He's got a little sting on his shot. He has good movement defensively. He's very technically sound there as well. Very educated with throwing the knees from the outside. Opponents try to take him down. He could see it coming, throws knees, throws straight punches, keeps you at distance. Likes to throw that little push kick from the side as well, just to create the distance once you get inside. Always trying to make sure that he keeps you exactly where he needs you. Taleb, I think he's very good. I think technically he's very good once he's inside. He's not going to throw one shot at a time as somebody like Lapilus would, which is why defensively he needs to be sharp, because Taleb likes to come in, and when he's inside, he will throw in combination. And if you're a little lazy with your defense, he's going to catch you with one of them, either the second to last one or the last one. And that's where I think the danger is for Lapilus. Both have really good takedown defense. I think Taleb's wrestling is probably a little stronger, but I still think most of this fight will take place on the ground, because I think Lapilus will be able to stay up. Obviously, if he goes down, I think he'll be able to get back up easily as well. The one thing that I see here is that, yeah, I think that Taleb is talented. I just think that Lapilus has fought the better competition over the years, and he pulled out some wins against them as well. And you know, Taleb has a good record, and he's fought some strong competition, and he's been able to get over on them as well. But I just feel that I understand he's 33, and Taleb's on the right side of 30. 33 is not old. I think Lapilus is ready to come in and get this victory.
Yeah, this one's a great fight. I enjoyed watching tape on both of these guys. And just to kick things off here with Ali Taleb, for me, he's got a win over Vinicius Oliveira, which I saw on his record and instantly went to go watch that fight. I thought that was an impressive victory to have when you think about the rise of Vinicius Oliveira inside the UFC and how impressive he's looked. I know that that's MMA math, but just a quality victory that you can put on Ali Taleb's record there and say that he beat that guy. He loves to pressure on the feet. He's definitely a fan favorite, very heavy hands. He's always going forward, swinging, pretty technical hooks. Mostly a boxer, doesn't tend to throw a ton of kicks. He loves that shovel uppercut as well, especially if he backs you up against the fence. He'll kind of feint like he's going to come at you with a hook and just throw the little shovel uppercut, which I really like. He will rip to the body as well, which I think will be a good weapon here against Lapilus. And also as well, he will throw shots, kind of individually, which I think is kind of a problem in some respect. I wish that he'd sort of doubled up and threw a combo, disguise the first punch, land the second punch. And I do think the best way to beat Ali Taleb is to throw a lot of calf kicks because he does have that kind of boxing heavy stance and also to wrestle him here. But I think with Taylor Lapilus coming off of that victory over Vincent Morales inside the UFC, southpaw, likes to blast the left kick, likes to blast the calf kicks, which I think could be a good weapon for him here. To me, he can be a little bit low output, and I think he's going to struggle to get the kicks off here against Ali Taleb. I just think that the pressure forward heavy style here for Ali Taleb is going to really give Taylor Lapilus a lot of problems with the kicks. And I think if this one comes down to the hands, I just trust Taleb's power. I think he's a little bit better with the hands. And I think here that Taylor Lapilus, to me, if you watch his fights, that they're not necessarily the best wins inside the UFC, not to play MMA math too much, but they're not standout performances. And when you look at Ali Taleb, I think he's going to really bring the fight to Taylor Lapilus. He's going to be the one going forward. I think this one's got split decision written all over it. I think both guys are going to have moments, but I just kind of trust the forward visuals here that the judges are going to see from Ali Taleb, and I think he lands some bigger shots and ultimately steals rounds here. But I think Taylor Lapilus could have a little bit more volume out of the two, but I still think that sometimes he just leaves a little bit to be desired. I'm going with Ali Taleb here to get it done. I think he might end up being the betting underdog, and we might put some money on him for a best bets video. But a little bit of dissension here for the co-main event. And that brings us to the main event, ladies and gentlemen. And if you haven't already and you're enjoying the content, hit that like and subscribe button as we break down Danny Roberts. What did you say his name was? His name was Hot Chocolate?
Chocolate.
Well,
Yeah.
this is Belgium chocolate, baby. We have Patrick Habirora, I believe that's how it's pronounced. But I'm going to kick things off here. Give me Patrick, man. He's going to get this done. To me, this is a showcase bout here for him in Belgium. That's why he's headlining this card. 27 amateur fights, turned pro, and now is 6-0. He's impressive to me. He beat Claudio Pachella, which I think is a decent win. He's had a lot of success inside the PFL. He looked very impressive in the last PFL Europe card. I want to say he's through to the semi-final or quarterfinals. So obviously a very, very good victory to have. Technical in the stand-up, very fast hands, can switch stances, loves to blast kicks. And don't get me wrong, Danny Roberts is very skilled on the feet. No one has ever doubted his upside. But coming off of 3 losses in a row, he's been knocked out twice in a row as well. To me, this is a showcase bout here against a 37-year-old, a guy who's maybe over the hill, chinny now. I think Patrick is probably going to keep this one on the feet and ultimately win here with the striking and find the knockout. And when you look at his lead hand, his jab, he kind of reminds me a little bit of Bobby King Green, like the way that Bobby kind of leaves it low so you don't necessarily see it coming, and he just all of a sudden just hits you with it. He's not necessarily keeping that left hand high. It just kind of comes from the waist. That's pretty much how he throws his jab. He can mix in the grappling, but he's not necessarily able to get fights to the ground to just beat you up in the clinch from there. Danny Roberts hasn't fought in 2 years since being eliminated or knocked out of the UFC. And I just, I don't trust his chin at this point. And I just think that the hand speed here of Patrick is going to be all she wrote. I think Danny, when he gets hit as well, sometimes he falls into, brawl mode and he just loses all of his technical ability and just wants to brawl. That's what gets him caught. And ultimately, even though he has the height and reach here, I think Patrick gets it done with the hands. Carlos, who you got in this one? Belgium chocolate or hot chocolate?
Well, I went with the Belgian chocolate here. I went with Habirora. I think that he can. I think that yes, he does carry his lead hand a little low. I think somebody like Roberts should be able to like that. I don't believe he's going to be able to. I do feel that I wish there was more I could say about it. I think there's just so much upside to this kid. He's a solid puncher, uh, good mover, takes little movements, little 3/4 turns to get out of the way of a striking distance. Same thing, fights long, keeps you at his distance, and he's got some solid strikes too. Like you could see the what's it called? The reaction of some of his fighters, like his opponents. They're always trying to stay on their back foot or get out of range. And I just what the one thing the reason why I went with Habirora is I think that Danny Roberts. I don't know if he has the motivation to get tagged and just keep going forward like he did before. 37 is not the oldest, but at these weight classes, and you've been taking beatings and you've been dropped in the last couple of fights, yeah, it's a lot. So I just think his body's not ready to keep up anymore, and I think it's going to be Habirora's night.
Yeah, for sure. And that's all we have time for this night for PFL Europe over in Brussels, Belgium. And if you've enjoyed the content, hit that like and subscribe button. And I said to Carlos before we broke this one down, if you guys want the PFL Best Bets video for this week for PFL Europe, we're going to need to see some likes and some subscribes. Let us know in the comments if you're interested in a PFL Best Bets video. And before we wrap things up, Carlos, is there anything that you want to say to the people?
Just want to say I hope you enjoyed the content. I know we got a little childish. We know that's obviously like these are like the worst way to pronounce these names. We're working on it, but goddamn, that's tough. But I happen to be a little better just because I try to learn from his mistakes. So like and subscribe, and I'll get hooked on phonics or whatever else you need to get these names going. So, yep, that's all I got.
I couldn't have put it better myself. And as I always say, man, if you're enjoying the content, hit that like and subscribe button. Keep an eye out for that PFL Best Bets video. Keep an eye out for some of the other content we've got coming this week, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
Peace.